Hi, I'm Professor Leah Rapaner. As a sociologist, I've made it my life's mission to take down every ridiculous gender myth out there. Like, do pretty people get paid more, or are women better multitaskers? This is Misperceived.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Misperceived. On today's episode, I'm going to talk to you about a nasty little habit I have. And I'm wondering, do you share this habit? This is the habit of doom scrolling. Picture this. I'm exhausted from a day of doing everything, making sure life is spinning, making sure that my work is getting done, making sure everyone in my life feels emotionally supported, battling all these people that come at me with stuff I don't care about, things I don't want to address, things I don't want to actually see, hear, or give any of my energy to. I lay down in bed, feels great. I think I'm going to fall asleep instantly. I do, maybe for an hour, maybe two. And then all of a sudden, bam, I'm up. Middle of the night, can't sleep, a little hot. Don't judge me. You know what I'm talking about. And what do I do in that moment is I reach across to my phone, I pick it up, and I start to doom scroll. Do you do this? Do you find that in moments where you have, time to relax, time when you're supposed to switch off, that you are just deeply connected into your phone, that you're constantly scrolling, that you're constantly on top of what's happening in the world? And for me, if you're like me, what this does for me is it interrupts my sleep. It makes me feel worse about the world. It makes my mental health feel awful. And I end up the next day tired, sad, angry, and emotional. It does not set me up for a great next day at life. I mean, it could be a weekend. It could be a work day. Let's be honest. It could be any day of the week. What's going on? And how can we get to the bottom of doing less of this? How can we take control over this idea that we need to be constantly connected and constantly aware? Now, I'm going to talk to you about, for many of you, what's perhaps happening in the world. I think what's going on at this moment in time is it's hard to disconnect. It's hard to disconnect for multiple reasons. One, we want to be accountable to the people we love, but around this doom scrolling, it feels like every time you get a breather, something big, significant, and serious happens that, I don't know about you, but I feel like I have to give my attention to, that I owe the world my attention, that I owe the world my eyeballs or my energy or my thoughts or my prayers or my insights. But one of the things that I think is challenging for me, and I'm curious if this is challenging for you as well, is when I give the world all of my energy, when I spend that time in the doom scroll, when I'm trying to be across everything that I think is significant and happening at this moment in time, and let's be honest, it is big, it is heavy, and it is real. That all that happens is I leave that experience feeling exhausted, tired, and demotivated, depressed about the world, and sad. What is happening? How can it be that we are so connected and so aware and have so much empathy, insight, and desire to make the world better? And yet our phones and this constant being cognizant of everything actually just zaps all of our capacity to do anything. What is happening? Lucky for you, I have been looking at the mental load for, multiple years. So let me tell you what's going on. This is a mental load drain. You think that what you're doing is giving a little bit of your energy to world events or to keeping track of what's happening through the doom scrolling or the fervent reading of newspapers or whatever it is where you're trying to keep yourself across the world. What it's doing is it's activating your mental load. As you know, there are 8 different types of mental load. So the mental load is that emotional thinking work necessary to keep our work, life, and families moving and running. Within that, there are 8 different types. This is coming through in my book, Drained, Reduce Your Mental Load to Do Less and Be More, coming out in April. But I identify 8 different types of mental load. 2 types of mental load I'll do 3. 3 types of mental load that I think are being activated in this moment of doom scrolling and in this moment where we feel like, wow, the stakes right now are really high, are twofold. One is this mental load to Medicare. This is, how do I create a world in which that aligns with my values, in which the things that I think are important are reflected back to me? The problem with our phones is that they're both reflecting back our values, but also the hard stuff around it, right? Like if you're constantly scrolling and you're seeing stuff around violence, around war, around protest, around, anger, that those emotions are lighting us up. And those are emotions that we're tapping into that the algorithms know that we like. Sorry. We're being fed those because the algorithms know that we'll react to them. But what it's also doing is it's taking a piece of your Medicare mental load. It's making you think about, this is not the world I want to live in, or this is not how I want to show up in the world. This is not what I want to do. This is not how I want my children to be raised. This is not worlds in which I think we can thrive. That is a mental load that's actually encompassing everything else. So every time you go in and you're kind of looking at this stuff and you find in your brain, you're doing this work of wait, I'm looking at this thing. I feel angry, outraged, upset, depressed. This is not the world I want to live in. This is not how I want to engage with the world. That is a mental load drain. That is a mental load drain that is drawing upon your mental load and taking a debit. In addition to that, I think one of the other or two other mental loads that are being activated is the mental load to safety. So I think for many of you, this mental load spent thinking about, how do I ensure that my family, loved one, and community are safe and protected from danger? Whether danger is real or hypothetical, doing that thinking work, that emotional thinking work, is part of your mental load. So what I'm saying to you in this book and what I'm saying to you in this research is like, you only have a certain amount of bandwidth. You have a certain amount of mental load energy. There is a certain capacity that you hold. And every time you have this stuff taking a drain, it's taking a piece out of that capacity. It's taking a piece out of the drain. And when you're doing the doom scrolling, whenever you're doing it, whenever you're supposed to have a moment of relaxation, and unfortunately for you, the algorithms are smart and it keeps feeding it back to you, right? Like, it's hard to put a stopgap in this, because the more you pause, look, react, I mean, it's monitoring your micro movements around this. The more you are reacting to it, the more you're going to get, the more it's going to drain your mental load. It's going to drain your mental load because you're seeing worlds that you don't actually enjoy. It's seeing your mental load, it's draining your mental load because you're thinking about safety. The third type of mental load drain that I think is coming from this kind of moment in our time. And again, I keep saying to you on this, I'm going to say it again. This is so atypical. You have never lived in a world with so much information coming at you, tailored specifically to you, tailored specifically to how you are responding and reacting emotionally, feeding you more and getting your dopamine going in ways that, your dopamine's being hit, even if it's being hit by something negative. This is, you're in a new world. It's a new frontier. No generation has ever experienced this, the frequency, speed, volume, and emotionality of information globally coming to you into your brain at this moment in time. This is exceptional in all the good ways and all the bad ways. If it feels like a roller coaster of highs and lows, that's the point. The other type of a mental load that is being drained by this is emotional support. This is checking on family, friends, and coworkers. So as you're in this doom scroll and realizing that actually all these awful things are happening all around the world, and then you're going, this is not the world I want to live in. This doesn't align with my values. That's Medicare. I'm worried about the safety and well-being of those I love and care about. That's a mental load drain. That's a mental load to safety. Then the next step is emotional support. How do I check in on those who I love, who are affected by this? And what does that look like? That is the most beautiful part of being a human. I am going to say that to you. We need to have more empathetic, kind humans in this world, but it is also a mental load drain. So if you are feeling like, wow, this is a lot for me, I am confirming to you it is. And it is because it's pinging your mental load in those moments when you should have rest, relaxation, and switching off. And so that is mental load on top of mental load. If I talk about your mental load to doom scrolling in the middle of the night, like I'm doing, then what I'm not talking about is the other ways in which you hold mental loads, the mental load to work, the mental load to family, the mental load to whether your job's being done, the mental load to whether, life is fun and exciting for everybody, the mental load towards, dream building. That's all on top of it. And so if you're feeling like, hey, this is actually burning me out, that was so clear across the interviews we did, hundreds and hundreds of people around the world, asking them about their mental loads spent on this stuff. They talk so much about online spaces for themselves, online spaces for their kids, and how do you navigate these online spaces? How do you make sure everyone's safe and well taken care of within them? So I want to confirm to you this is a mental load drain. If you find it exhausting, if you find that you're actually overwhelmed, if you find that you're moving towards burnout, if you find that it's unproductive, it's in part because it's draining your mental load in these ways. What I want to say to you, and this is another piece of my book, is that the challenge is if we're draining through our mental load on all of these things, we don't have capacity for other things. You do not have an infinite amount of mental load energy. You do not. You only have a fixed amount. Where is that energy going? Now, for many of you, when I say this, you're going to say, but the world is too broken right now for me to not care. I agree with you. We need you to care. What we don't need is you absolutely burnt out 100% in all of your mental energy from doom scrolling in the middle of the night, that then you wake up the next morning and you feel like you can't step into the world in ways in which you want to. You can't step into the world with lightness. You can't step into the world empowered. You can't step into the world motivated. You can't step into the world with clear and consistent goals. You can't step into the world with love. You can't step into the world with energy. That is not a helpful use of your mental load energy. This is a direct correlation between your time spent doom scrolling and draining through your mental load battery, draining through your mental load account with that, and then not having the energy that you need the next day to step into the world to do the things that we all need you, me, the person next door, your best friend to do. In my book, Drained, this is one of the key things that I just really feel like is so critical right now. We need women with mental load energy at maximum capacity, at surplus. Because I am saying to you, you are right. The challenges that we're facing are tremendous. The challenges we're facing are scary. The challenges we face require us to be brave. The challenges we face do require us to do more, to do something. I am not dictating what that something is, and you cannot do everything. You need to pick what you can do. And it can be as small as checking in on your neighbor to making sure they're okay, to as big as running for office, right? Being the change that you want to see in the world, being the person who is motivated to run for office, to step into, big spaces and do big things. It can be small as baking cookies for your best friend to tell them that you love them and you care about them, and as big as changing the world. But you are not going to do that if your mental load energy is constantly drained. And you are not going to be able to do that if you are spending all your energy draining it through the doom scroll in ways that are unproductive. Am I talking to me right now? Of course. Am I talking to you right now? Yes, too. Because I believe that we can come together. I believe that if we start to think about, if I say to you like, hey, you know what's going on in that moment? You're draining through your mental load battery, and you're actually seeing something so depressing, which is a world that you don't want to live in. And you're waking up unmotivated the next day. Let's stop that. In that moment where you actually need rest and recovery, why don't you take it? Why don't you fill your Instagram feed or your TikTok feed with things that you love, things that you want to see? Because you know that the next day you're going to need energy to step into the world with fight and grit and determination and power. That doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't mean that you don't care. If the idea is that the only way we can care is by doom scrolling and feeling outrage, that doesn't do anything. Where does that energy go? It only poisons yourself. It only poisons your family the next day because you're pissed, right? Take that energy. That's motivating energy. That's energy that's showing you that you need to take action, and action is action. And again, that's what we need to do. We need to start getting really strategic in how we're draining through our mental load accounts. Again, to Medicare, this idea that are we living in the worlds we want to live in? Are they reflected back to us? And safety, some of that's incredibly critical, right? I'm not saying you shouldn't spend your mental load energy doing that or emotional support, of course. But you also can't then have that time when you're supposed to be resting, recovering, and preparing for the next day, drained. What do you think about this? Does it resonate? I think this is a moment where we're all trying to figure out where to go next. Where are you going next? Let me know. How does this resonate for you? And if you think about a shift in realignment of goals, values, and actions, what would that look like for you? As per usual, thank you so much for listening to Misperceived, where you don't need a PhD, you get to hang out with me. I want to tell you something, y'all. We are trending in like so many countries, Saudi Arabia, Korea, Czech Republic, the US, Australia, New Zealand. Like, can you tell me where y'all are coming from? I just love it. So I see it. I see that you're coming from all around the world to listen to what I'm saying. And I just want to tell you, I'm grateful for that. Anything you can do to share, rate, listen, that helps. Contact me on my socials at prof.leah.rapaner. Let me know what this is hitting for you. And if you're living in a different country, what does it look like for you? This mental load spent thinking about doom scrolling. What's capturing your mental load? And does this actually cause the same drain? And what does it look like in terms of the alignment with values and actions? I'd love to hear everything that's happening in your worlds. I'd love to hear everything that's happening for you and how this is impacting you. It's always a research point. So thank you so much for listening to Misperceived, where you don't need a PhD. You just get to come hang out with me. And look, second time's the charm. I got it. Have a wonderful week. I love you. You're doing a great job. And step into the world with your power. Mwah. We are so lucky and grateful that this series is being supported by the Melbourne Public Humanities Initiative at the University of Melbourne.